Hi, I'm Sylvan Finger, and today's uh, Living Well class is personal finance. As I put this lesson together, I'm reminded how many different parts of finance there are and how many levels of understanding there are. Last year I had an example of someone who tried to work with both basic savings and long-term retirement savings. And so if you wanted to look at that resource for those reasons, go ahead and go for it. But this class, I'll just go ahead and share with the things that I find value for the basic understanding of finances and go from there. And so I don't know what you think of when it comes to finances. Probably, of course, money. Also, for me, I tend to think of a headache. There's so many things to consider that right here I've got a budget worksheet. You could fill everything in, and it just takes time to put it all together. And a lot of people find out that whether you put a budget together or not, they still seem to get through the month. But the hope I have here is once you understand the tools better and how to put a budget together, you can have a better use of money and ultimately have the life that you want. So I know how I handle money. I'm a numbers guy, so I tend to, even though math is one of my expertise, it's still a lot of head knowledge, head space to put it all together. So my questions for AI today. What are some different attitudes towards money and why does it matter?
Attitudes towards money. People's attitudes toward money are shaped by their upbringing, cultural influences, and personal experiences, and these attitudes, in turn, significantly influence their financial behaviors and overall well-being. Identifying your own money personality can help you understand your habits and make more intentional financial decisions. Here are a few common attitudes toward money. The spender. People with this attitude find joy and excitement in spending. They may be drawn to luxury items, new gadgets, or experiences. While this can lead to a fulfilling lifestyle, it can also result in impulsive decisions, debt, and a lack of savings for the future. The saver/hoarder, the opposite of the spender. This person feels a sense of security and control by accumulating money. They are often frugal and may feel anxious or guilty about spending, even on necessities or enjoyable experiences. While their habit of saving is generally a positive trait, an extreme version of this can lead to missed opportunities and an inability to enjoy life's simple pleasures. The avoider. This person feels overwhelmed and stressed by money matters. They avoid budgeting, checking bank statements, or making financial plans. This attitude can stem from a feeling of being uninformed or powerless, and it often leads to a lack of financial control and unpreparedness for future challenges. The status seeker. For this individual, money is a symbol of power, prestige, and success. They may use their wealth to impress others or to keep up with the Joneses. This can lead to living beyond their means and a focus on material possessions rather than genuine well-being. The giver. This person views money as a tool to help others and create positive change. They are generous and find satisfaction in giving to family, friends, or charitable causes. While this is a noble trait, it's important for givers to find a balance between their generosity and their own financial security to avoid depletion. Why attitudes towards money matter. Your attitude toward money isn't just a quirk of your personality, it's a fundamental driver of your financial health. Understanding your money mindset is crucial for several reasons. It dictates financial behavior. Your beliefs about money directly impact your habits, how you save, spend, and invest. For example, a person with an abundance mindset, who believes there are enough opportunities and resources to go around, is more likely to take calculated risks and invest wisely, while someone with a scarcity mindset, who constantly worries about running out of money, might hoard cash and be too afraid to invest. It affects your goals. Your attitude determines whether you're focused on short-term pleasure or long-term security. A healthy money mindset can help you set and achieve goals like buying a home, saving for retirement, or starting a business. whereas a negative mindset can be a major hurdle to financial success. It influences your overall well-being. Money attitudes are closely linked to emotional health. A person who views money as a source of stress and anxiety will experience those feelings in their daily life. In contrast, someone with a balanced perspective sees money as a neutral tool that can bring security and freedom, leading to a greater sense of peace and control.
All right. So, again, I like the way he ended on that. So, while money can be a stressor in life, it doesn't have to be. If what I learned from the Dave Ramsey class from Financial Peace University is the great thing about having a budget is while a budget may seem restrictive in what you can spend and where it all goes, overall it lays out a plan for you for the life you're looking for. So if you're wanting to spend $1,000 a month at a restaurant, not a restaurant, but going to restaurants every month, and your budget allows for that, well then go ahead and go for that. If you want to go on a $5,000 vacation every month, and your budget and of course your work allows for that, well then go ahead. But if you don't have that budget, but you do it anyways, well then obviously you're going to have more money that you owe, and you already didn't have the money the first time, and so you got to now next month, not only do you not have as much money you want, but you even have to figure out how to work with less. And again, then you're back into the stressor mindset that money is just something that you don't have. I learned that a phrase I keep hearing often is everyone can use more money, and well, even the richest people in the world could use more money. Well, maybe not, but chances are not everyone is going to be rich. I hear even apparently I never experienced this, but probably because I never had oodles of money. But women are always looking for a man who has apparently plenty of income coming in, and the women can just spend his money or cover the debt that she's been carrying or collecting over a period of time, especially after going to school. And well, that might be lofty and nice and all, but what people are finding is there's not a whole lot of men who have a whole lot of money. As for myself, I've tried a variety of jobs before this, and I've tried to excel in sales and entrepreneuring I've tried with a little bit, but overall I've learned I'm more of a giver than anything. So when I lend something out, I'm not wanting it back, nor am I seeking interest. I just enjoy helping people, which can be great. And I have had to learn over time when to say no to giving money, because again, everyone needs money, and there's always a need. And if people want to spend $1 million a year, they can find a way to do it. I'm sure many people here, especially in courting, are thinking, I can't imagine myself spending $1 million a year, but you can. And there's people that do spend $1 million a year, even though they only make $500 a year. And you may not have $500 coming into your house every year, but yet people do figure out a way to spend that much money for whatever reason. And a lot of it is because they aren't focused on their plan. So let's look at that. So, well, no, I have a good question here. Well, I'd like to do that. And this did highlight it a little bit. There's a difference between emotional spending and strategic spending. So looking at a budget is strategic spending, while emotional spending is well, there's all of it. You could have a midlife crisis, so you buy a new car that you can't afford, and that's emotional spending. You're not feeling, you're feeling kind of depressed one day, so you just decide to buy a tub of ice cream. And so you put your money into that, and now your tub of ice cream is making you feel overstimulated, but you're still depressed, and so you're even more anxious than when you bought that tub of ice cream. And so, while it may sound strategic at the moment to buy a tub of ice cream, that may not be the answer. So, let's see more examples that Gemini has to say. What are some examples of emotional spending versus strategic spending?
Emotional spending is making a purchase driven by feelings rather than logic or a clear need, while strategic spending is based on a thoughtful plan to achieve a financial goal. Emotional spending often leads to regret and financial stress, whereas strategic spending contributes to long-term financial stability. Emotional spending. Emotional spending is frequently triggered by a heightened emotional state, whether positive or negative. The purchase provides a temporary emotional boost, but the feeling is often short-lived. This type of spending is typically unplanned and can become a habit, leading to a cycle of overspending. Examples of emotional spending: buying new clothes or gadgets after a bad day at work. The purchase serves as retail therapy to momentarily lift your mood. Impulsively buying a lavish gift for a friend out of guilt. This isn't about the gift's value to the recipient, but about assuaging your own negative emotions. Ordering expensive takeout for comfort when you feel stressed or lonely. The food provides a temporary sense of relief from stress. Purchasing a new video game or luxury item to celebrate a minor victory. The purchase is an immediate reward that wasn't planned. Subscribing to multiple streaming services or an excessive number of apps out of boredom. This spending is an attempt to fill a void or distract yourself. Strategic spending. Strategic spending is the intentional opposite of emotional spending. It's spending with a purpose, as part of a larger plan to achieve a financial objective. This approach requires forethought and is often guided by a budget. It's not about being cheap, but about being deliberate with every dollar you spend. Examples of strategic spending: buying a reliable, fuel-efficient car after researching models and creating a budget. This purchase is a planned investment to meet a long-term transportation need while minimizing ongoing costs. Investing in a professional course to develop skills that will lead to a higher salary. This is a calculated expense with the goal of increasing future income. Purchasing quality, durable furniture for a new home. Instead of buying cheap, temporary items, you're making a one-time, larger investment that will last for years. Allocating a fixed amount each month for a vacation fund. This ensures you can enjoy a trip without going into debt, as it's a pre-planned expense. Using a coupon or waiting for a sale on a specific item you need. This shows you are thinking about the value of your money and seeking ways to maximize it, rather than just buying on a whim.
All right. So, I like those examples. It kind of stretched them. I wish they would have put them back and forth. It would have been a better option. Uh, so, but I think you get the idea between my examples and these. And so, we've heard some basic strategic planning to help. You hear some ideas of what do we have here? We have I dream of getting better furniture. I think buying a home was what on here. Finding a car that fits the budget and something that you would enjoy driving. You can't have both. I think another thing you have to fear about budget is just because you're budgeting doesn't mean you have to, everything in life has to stink. Well, no. Hopefully you can find a lifestyle that fits your budget, or else I guess you're looking for a new job if that job is making your life so miserable because you're not bringing in money coming in. And of course, find a new job may not be easy, but it is a struggle. What overall, if you want more income coming in, you gotta work for it. So I've learned that every class or lifestyle a person has really is a choice. To say someone chose homelessness might seem kind of extreme and impersonal, but as I've worked with homelessness and try to help them to a better way and they reject it, whether it's through strategic planning or providing resources that fit the need that they said they needed, but choose to reject it, then really they're choosing to be a homeless. And maybe they don't want to be a homeless at the same time. So then the issue then isn't money. The issue is perhaps just being loved, finding a community that values who they are. You know, some people I've heard might say laziness is a virtue. I don't think laziness is a virtue. I think laziness is just a lack of motivation, of understanding how their lifestyle or what of the things they value aren't valued by others. And so, for example, if I'm a computer engineer and I go to a bunch of whole community of engineers, unless they're planning to hire me for their career to work for others, if I just want to do something on my own, I could find a community that doesn't have a computer engineer, but it needs some computer engineering done. Then my talent is all of a sudden valued, and then everyone starts to appreciate each other. Because not everyone needs to be a computer engineer. Not everyone needs to work at a grocery store. Not everyone needs to be a house contractor. Not everyone needs to be a banker. And not everyone can do it all. So by everyone coming together and finding their values is the important thing. So as there were already some healthy financial goals mentioned for an average person, let's see if Gemini has some more to add. So what are some examples of healthy financial goals for an average person?
Establishing healthy financial goals is a crucial step toward building a secure and prosperous future. For the average person, these goals are typically centered around 3 key areas: building a safety net, managing debt, and saving for the future. These goals should be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Here are some examples of healthy financial goals, broken down into short-term, mid-term, and long-term categories. Short-term financial goals, 1 to 2 years. These goals are the foundation of a healthy financial life. They are typically focused on creating stability and a buffer against unexpected events. Build an emergency fund. The most critical short-term goal is to save enough money to cover at least 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses, rent/mortgage, utilities, groceries, etc. This fund acts as a safety net in case of job loss, a medical emergency, or a major car repair, preventing you from going into debt. Create a realistic budget. This involves tracking your income and expenses to understand where your money is going. A budget is a tool that gives you control over your spending and helps you allocate funds toward your financial goals. Pay off high-interest debt. Focusing on paying down credit card balances or personal loans with high interest rates is a smart goal. This can save you a significant amount of money in interest and free up cash flow for other objectives. Start a sinking fund for a specific purchase. Instead of going into debt, create a fund for a planned purchase like a new appliance, a vacation, or a down payment on a car. This is a practical way to avoid emotional or impulsive spending. Midterm financial goals, 3 to 5 years. Once you have a stable foundation, you can start working on larger, more ambitious goals. Save for a down payment on a home. This is a common and significant midterm goal. To make it a SMART goal, determine a specific amount you need to save and a realistic timeline to reach it. Pay off student loans or other debt. Systematically paying down a significant debt, like a student loan or car loan, can be a major milestone. You can use strategies like the snowball, pay off the smallest debt first, or avalanche, pay off the highest interest debt first methods. Fund a child's college education. Starting a 529 plan or similar education savings account early can make a huge difference in the long run. Setting aside a consistent amount each month is a great way to make this long-term goal achievable. Invest in career development. This might involve paying for a professional certification, a graduate degree, or specialized training. This is a strategic expense that can lead to a higher salary and greater financial potential. Long-term financial goals, 5+ years. These goals are often the most impactful and require consistent effort over many years. Save for retirement. This is arguably the most important long-term financial goal. Start contributing to a tax-advantaged retirement account, like a 401k, especially if your employer offers a match, or an IRA as early as possible. Become debt-free, including mortgage. A major goal for many people is to pay off all debt, including their mortgage. This can be a game changer for financial freedom and can free up a substantial amount of money for other purposes. Build a diverse investment portfolio. Beyond retirement accounts, a healthy long-term goal is to build a diversified portfolio of investments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, etc., to grow your wealth over time. Plan your estate. As your wealth grows, a healthy financial goal is to create a will, set up trusts, and plan for how your assets will be distributed. This ensures your wishes are carried out and can provide peace of mind.
All right. So, I don't know how much financial expertise you have, but I know my mind was getting overwhelmed with all that in there. And in fact, if you really just want to dive in and get your finances get a jump start on your finances, you go ahead and review this information or ask your own, do your own research on just what was just said. But you realize there's a whole lot involved in getting your finances organized. And so, where to start? A lot of it is the budget worksheet. Start with what you have now so you can see what you have left over. If there is anything left over, hopefully there is. So let's ask that next question. What are the steps to creating a budget?
Creating a budget is the foundation of a healthy financial life. It's not about restricting yourself, but about giving every dollar a purpose so you can spend guilt-free and work towards your goals. Here are the steps to creating a budget. Step 1. Calculate your monthly income. The first step is to figure out exactly how much money you have coming in each month. Use your net income, the amount after taxes, insurance, and other deductions from all sources. Salary/wages. Use your take-home pay from your main job. If you have a variable income, use a conservative estimate based on the average of the last few months. Side hustles include income from any freelance work, a second job, or a small business. Other income. Don't forget other sources like child support, Social Security, or rental income. Step 2. Track and categorize your expenses. This is the most time-consuming but crucial step. For at least 1 month, track every single dollar you spend. This will give you a realistic picture of your spending habits and help you identify areas where you can make changes. You can use an app, a spreadsheet, or a notebook to track your expenses. Categorize your spending into 2 groups. Fixed expenses. These are expenses that are the same every month and are often non-negotiable. Rent/mortgage, car payment, insurance premiums, utilities sometimes, minimum debt payments, subscriptions, Netflix, gym membership, etc. Variable expenses. These expenses change from month to month and offer the most opportunity for adjustment. Groceries, gas, dining out, entertainment, clothing, shopping, gifts. Step 3. Choose a budgeting method. There's no one-size-fits-all budget. The best budget for you is the one you can stick with. Here are a few popular methods. The 50/30/20 rule. A simple and popular method where you divide your after-tax income into 3 categories. 50% for needs, essential fixed expenses like housing, utilities, and transportation. 30% for wants, discretionary spending like dining out, entertainment, and hobbies. 20% for savings and debt repayment, money for an emergency fund, retirement, and paying down debt beyond the minimum. Zero-based budgeting. This method gives every single dollar a job. You subtract your expenses from your income, and the goal is to have the remainder equal 0. This doesn't mean you have no money left, but that every dollar is accounted for, whether it's for bills, savings, or spending. Apps like YNAB, You Need a Budget, are built around this method. The envelope system. A physical method where you use cash and envelopes to control spending in variable categories like groceries and entertainment. Once an envelope is empty, you can't spend any more money in that category until the next month. There are also digital versions of this system through apps like Good Budget. Step 4. Create a plan and set financial goals. With your income, expenses, and a budgeting method in mind, you can now create a plan. This is where you can see if your current spending aligns with your financial goals, like those mentioned in the previous response. Review your spending. Look at your expense categories. Are you spending too much on dining out? Are your streaming services adding up? Adjust your spending. Make conscious decisions to cut back in certain areas and reallocate that money toward your goals. This might mean cooking at home more often or canceling a subscription you don't use. Automate your savings. A key to a successful budget is to pay yourself first. Set up automatic transfers to your savings and investment accounts on payday, so the money is set aside before you have a chance to spend it. Step 5. Review and adjust your budget regularly. A budget is a living document, not a static plan. Your life and your financial situation will change, so it's important to revisit your budget regularly. Track your progress. At the end of each month, review your spending and compare it to your budget. Identify what worked and what didn't. Did you consistently overspend in one category? Was a goal too ambitious? Make adjustments. Tweak your budget for the next month. The more you practice, the more intuitive and effective your budget will become.
I have not been talking. So basically, what I've said was our own government, government.gov has a budget worksheet. You can fill it out there, or you could use the Excel spreadsheet. I've also included another category or column is a budget amount versus actual amount. And what you could do instead is use the budget. What can you do instead? You can use maybe have two printouts of this, one of the actual amount and one of the target goals, your average spending. I've heard after like 3 months, you can kind of actually get an idea of how much you're actually spending. As some months are longer, some have 28 days, some have 31. While It may not seem like 31 days is a lot. I mean, 3 days is a lot difference than the 28. That is whatever, 3 more days of gas being spent. That's maybe you go have holidays on some months. You got birthdays, so you got events you're planning for, so you got a budget for that, but maybe not every month. You're not having a family special occasion. So there's all kinds of things to consider. So what's great about this budget template is it lists the basic things that you need to consider for. So now I got to get my thoughts all back together. So I guess we can go through this. So as the AI mentioned, your income's pretty easy to calculate. You just put that on the top, and then everything else is usually just pennies off of that. And it's just a small fraction. Maybe your rent is half. That's just kind of, or more. That's kind of how Californians do it here. But hopefully there's other things. Utilities you can keep track of. You keep track of your air conditioner spending. How much do you really want to spend, and having the climate the same degrees, 74 degrees all year long. By not even turning it on, you save some money. Best answer I've heard. Why would you give PG&E some money when you can go enjoy life somewhere outside the home and do other things, or even go on a vacation? So if you don't, obviously have to be somewhere. Hopefully that something you're doing is working, or you're investing in someone. You're investing in relationships. To me, the worst spending is being by yourself, doing nothing. Everyone needs their introvert moments, but eventually you got to leave the home. So you got other things in here. Taxes, a lot of times that's already calculated for you for one reason, in one way or another. And groceries, I like to make sure I have an account for groceries. So anytime there's, whether what store, or whether it's a variety of grocery stores, it goes on the same card or comes out of the same account. We'll look at those tools later. Those are some tricks. Eating out and food, expenses, public transportation, taxis. There's all kinds of things to keep track of here, and that's a lot. What I like about the credit card is that, or even a debit card, is that if you use it for every transaction, it'll record everything you're going. And so as long as you can read the description, sometimes people have an awkward description of who they are and what you spent it towards. But like Square, it says it came out of Square. or what's another one that people use? A Venmo. You have a Venmo transaction. Well, transaction of what? I guess you could maybe take notes of what you spent on Venmo, and when it comes to put all this information in, then you have your answer. But that's what works for me. And the unfortunate thing about cards is usually there's a transaction fee for the business person running it, so they're actually making less money. But everyone's got to do what they got to do. Another bad thing about cards is because you don't know, you're not seeing how much is left. It seems to be when you use actual cash, the money seems to be more. When you see this is all you have, people are less likely to want to spend it all. Where a card, people have found that if you allow the card, people will spend more. And that's why a lot of consumers are willing to take the hit of paying for the transaction fees, because they'll know that the person buying from them will probably spend more anyways. So I like the things that to consider here. Bank account. If you have a bank account, sometimes it's like $6 a month to be there with them, but then again, you have the convenience of someone else handling the money. You're not carrying around a wad of cash and accidentally losing that wad of cash. or someone actually accidentally taking that wad of cash. So the idea is it's more secure in the bank, and it's easier to spend when you need to spend it. Credit card or other debt payments. So that's for when you're trying to reduce your payment, not so much add to it. So hopefully that's what the use is for, is you have a certain amount that you're applying towards. Hopefully you're paying off your credit cards off every month. But if for some reason there's a card that you made a big expense on, and such as you had some car repair, you run the credit card, and you're hoping that that car repair can be paid off in like 3 months or 5 months, because there's some major work that needed to be done. But hopefully you don't have those kind of expenses, but they do come up for whatever reason. So saving deposits, investment contributions, that's probably like, no, investment would be, what would investment be? That would be like retirement and things like that. I don't think I saw charity on here, which is quite interesting. As a church, as a church worker, I highly recommend that your first item on the list to see what your expenses is to make sure that it's church and charity, have them be 2 separate lines. So say you want to support a child in another country who's struggling but could use some financial help. That would be an option. And then the churches usually recommend 10% of your income. So you have set aside 10% of your income towards the church, and then you have the others listed below. And then the idea is you have the remaining 90%, 9/10 of your money to spend elsewhere. So overall, the Lord will take care of it, and your spiritual needs are important. We kind of live in a world, at least I feel like we're living in a world where people aren't taking care of their spiritual needs, maybe more so with the current events that's happening. People realize, what, they do need spiritual care. We don't have it all together and all figured out. And so that's what the church amount is for spiritual care and a place of community. And so when times fall apart, the church is there to support you. So it's not just a crutch. It should be one of the bags of tools to help you get through life. So there's that. There's a budget. What time we got? I got about 15-20 minutes. So my next line. So budget's one tool. Let's see what Gemini has to say about basic tools of banking. What are the basic tools of banking?
The tools of banking can be understood in 2 main ways: the products and services banks offer to customers, and the methods they use to operate and manage the financial system. Here's a breakdown of both. Basic banking products and services for consumers. These are the fundamental tools that individuals and businesses use to manage their money on a daily basis. Deposit accounts, checking accounts, designed for everyday transactions. This is where you deposit your paycheck and pay bills. They offer easy access to funds through debit cards, checks, and online transfers. Savings accounts, a place to store money you don't need for immediate use. They are designed for saving and typically earn a small amount of interest. Money market accounts, MMAs, a hybrid of checking and savings accounts. They usually require a higher minimum balance and offer a higher interest rate than a traditional savings account, with some check writing capabilities. Certificates of deposit, CDs, a type of savings account where you agree to keep a lump sum of money in the bank for a fixed period, e.g. 6 months, 5 years. In return, the bank pays a higher fixed interest rate. Lending and credit. Loans. Banks provide various types of loans, including personal loans, auto loans, and student loans. The most significant loan for most people is a mortgage, a loan specifically for buying a home. Credit cards, a revolving line of credit that allows you to borrow up to a certain limit. You can use a credit card for purchases and pay back the balance over time, with interest. Lines of credit, A flexible loan that allows you to borrow money as you need it, up to a certain limit. You only pay interest on the amount you've borrowed. A home equity line of credit, HELOC, is a common example. Transaction and payment tools. Debit cards, linked directly to your checking account. They allow you to make purchases and withdraw cash from an ATM. Online and mobile banking provides 24/7 access to your accounts. You can check balances, pay bills, transfer money, and deposit checks using your phone. Automated Clearinghouse, ACH. This electronic network facilitates transfers between bank accounts. Direct deposit of paychecks and automatic bill payments are common examples of ACH transfers. Wire transfers, a fast and secure electronic method for sending money between banks, often for large or international transactions. The broader tools of banking for the economy. On a larger scale, banks are critical to the economy. They are a primary tool for central banks, like the U.S. Federal Reserve, to implement monetary policy. Reserve requirements. The central bank requires commercial banks to hold a certain percentage of their deposits in reserve. By adjusting this requirement, the central bank can influence how much money banks have available to lend, thereby controlling the money supply. Interest rates. Central banks set a discount rate, which is the interest rate they charge on loans to commercial banks. This, in turn, influences the interest rates that commercial banks offer on loans and savings accounts for their customers. Open market operations. This involves the central bank buying or selling government bonds to commercial banks. Buying bonds injects money into the financial system, while selling them pulls money out, affecting the money supply and interest rates. Lending. Banks are the primary channel for turning deposits into loans. This process is essential for financing businesses, home purchases, and consumer spending, all of which are critical drivers of economic growth.
All right. So a whole lot of options there. I think more of the first ones that were put on here were a little bit more familiar. The further down it went, the more long-term investing and expert investing they were. So instead of me telling you what you should start with and what you should use, I'm thinking AI can give us some examples of good and bad examples of using these banking tools. What are some good and bad examples of using these tools?
The banking tools we discussed, from deposit accounts to credit cards and online banking, are designed to make financial life easier and more secure. However, how you use them can determine whether they help you build wealth or lead to financial trouble. Good examples of using banking tools. These examples show how to use banking tools strategically to support your financial goals. Using a savings account for a specific goal. Good example. You want to buy a new car in 3 years. You open a separate high-yield savings account, a type of savings account with a better interest rate, and set up an automatic transfer of $250 from your checking account every payday. This is a disciplined, hands-off way to save that prevents you from spending the money impulsively. Using a credit card wisely. Good example. You use a credit card for all your monthly expenses, such as groceries and gas, to earn rewards, like cashback or airline miles. You then set up an automatic payment from your checking account to pay the full balance of the card every month. This builds a strong credit history, earns you rewards, and avoids paying any interest. Leveraging online banking for budgeting and security. Good example. You use your bank's mobile app to track your spending in real time. You set up alerts to notify you of any transaction over $50, which helps you stay within your budget and quickly spot any fraudulent activity. You also use the app's built-in tools to categorize your spending, helping you make informed decisions. Taking out a loan strategically. Good example. You need to consolidate several high-interest credit card debts. You apply for a personal loan with a lower fixed interest rate. You use the loan to pay off the credit cards, and then you have a clear, predictable monthly payment plan that helps you get out of debt faster. Bad examples of using banking tools. These examples illustrate how using banking tools without a plan or without being aware of the risks can lead to financial trouble. Using a checking account as your only financial tool. Bad example. You keep all your money, your emergency fund, savings, and spending money in a single checking account. This makes it easy to lose track of your savings and can lead to overspending. Without a separate emergency fund, an unexpected expense could force you into debt. Misusing a credit card. Bad example. You use your credit card to buy things you can't afford, carrying a high balance from month to month. The card's high interest rate causes your debt to grow, and you find yourself only making the minimum payments, never making a dent in the principal. Ignoring online banking and security. Bad example. You never check your bank statements or set up fraud alerts. When a fraudster gets your debit card information, they make a series of small, unauthorized purchases. Because you're not monitoring your account, you don't notice until weeks later, by which time the money is gone, and it's much harder to dispute the charges. Taking out a loan impulsively. Bad example. You take out a large personal loan to buy a depreciating asset, like a car with a high price tag. The loan payment strains your budget, and the car's value drops faster than you're paying it off, leaving you upside down on the loan, owing more than the car is worth. Falling for a bank-related scam. Bad example. A scammer calls and claims to be from your bank's fraud department. They tell you there's suspicious activity on your account, and that you need to transfer your money to a safe account. You panic and follow their instructions, only to realize later that you've sent your money directly to a criminal.
All right, all kinds of examples. Yeah, scammers, you gotta watch out for. I get probably like 20 scam calls a day, and I'm sure they're taking advantage of people who don't really know what they're doing. So, whether you're not sure if it's a scammer or not, whether it's through a phone call or a text message or an email, I just go ahead and ask them questions. Reveal what organization you are. I find a lot of them are they just give a generic name. You know, your bank has an issue. Well, which one? They might say your primary one. You know, if they're not answering specific answers, knowing which bank you have, and you have to find, and you have to answer information for them, it's usually fraud. They should know. The person behind the phone should know you, who you are, and what you're up to. You shouldn't have to re-identify everything. Of course, they probably need to figure out some personal information to make sure they're talking to the right person, but still, yeah, the scammers you just got to watch out for. So you got a lot of good and bad examples. I like how they talked about having separate bank accounts. That's a good strategy to have. So if you have a savings account for emergency savings, then you know not to touch that and get those numbers mixed up with other things. Even though you can technically have an Excel spreadsheet that separates everything out, when you have like 15 layers of things that you've artificially put on yourself, it can be tricky to keep it all together. As far as speaking of layers, they did talk about having emergency funds, and so what I find what works best for me is when I have a savings account level number that I'm targeting for. You know, hopefully I'm putting some money in that every day. So I have a savings account for long-term investing and an emergency fund account. But I guess I haven't separated those two out. They're at the same right at this point. So for a variety of reasons. And you got to do what works for you, best for you. So what I have is I have a savings account that I don't touch. If anything, put money in it. And banks are good at trying to make sure that they fine you if you take too much money. Regularly take money out of that account. And so another thing is so you have a savings account and then a checking account. You have that number at a certain level. And that's usually the smaller one. Enough where I check that number once a month. And then once a month I pay my bills. And so some people I pay my bills once a month, and some people don't. Some people more want it on the same date, but I can't pay everybody on the same at the time they're wanting. And so online banking works great for me, where I just I tell each bank's online platform after I log in, I select the date I want the transaction to come out, and I have my Excel spreadsheet that calculates everything that's being spent, and hopefully that number is of my checking account is back to the same level of, let's say, $1,000 by the end of the month. Maybe it's 3,000 for you, but those are just some numbers. And then the third level of backup, if you really need an emergency, would be credit cards. So you could always pay that way. But that's hopefully you can pay it off with the next month. If you can't pay it off the next month, then you probably need to get back to your budget and start working your numbers. So the next topic on here, I got about 10 more minutes, is interest. You got compound interest that can work for you and work that against you. Usually the ones that work against you is the ones on loans. When you take out a loan, that's money that you don't have. You're borrowing the banks, but they let you do it because when you give them money back, you're giving them actually more money than what you took out. So why would you do that in the first place? Well, hopefully whatever you're taking a loan out for is helping you move forward in the future. And so, for example, instead of paying rent for a home, if you buy a home, then the money you'd be putting into rent is not going towards a mortgage. And so that's money going towards a piece of property that you're claiming as your own. Where if you're renting, then you're just giving it to someone else and you never see it again. And then it's pretty much like starting over each month. And for some people, that's just where they're at. But hopefully, people can make choices where the money that they are spending actually is investing in themselves rather than paying for. Technically, renting is like paying for a service. You're paying for someone else to have a home that you are allowed to live in. On the opposite side, interest working for you, such as a savings account, and they listed all kinds of savings type things, such as a CD, a cash deposit, which you can find at credit unions. Usually credit unions have the best interest rate numbers, and that's one of the reasons why people flock to them. And there's reasons for that. But overall, anything with any interest rate for a savings, that's money that's working for you. So you get, the bank is able to use the money you give them to make even more money than what they give back to you. But yet the percentage of interest that they give back to you, the money they add on top of it, is money that technically you yourself didn't work for. It's just you gave it to someone else and they invested it for you. So you can do your own investments, which is basically you're starting a business at that point. And if you can work investments, great, where you can buy things and sell them at a higher price and do it really fast, then you're already on your way to becoming a millionaire. But overall, I've learned it takes a certain type of person to have that kind of mindset. So again, I'm a giver, not an investor. I invest by giving into important areas, such as spiritual care. So maybe we could go ahead and ask AI real quick here. Can you display an example for me of income or an amount of savings being increased from interest alone?
Here's a straightforward example of how a savings amount can increase from interest alone, illustrating the power of compound interest. The power of compounding. Let's assume you have a starting principal of $10,000 in a high-yield savings account with an annual interest rate of 4%, compounded annually. You don't add any more money after your initial deposit. Year 1. Interest earned. $10,000 asterisk 0.04 equals $400. Total at the end of the year. $10,000 plus 400 equals asterisk 10,400. Year 2. The interest is now calculated on your new, larger balance. Interest earned. $10,400 asterisk 0.04 equals $416. Total at the end of the year. $10,400 plus 416 equals asterisk 10,816 mime. Year 3. Interest earned. $10,816 Asterisk 0.04 equals $432.64. Total at the end of the year, $10,816 plus $432.64 equals asterisk 11,248.64. Notice that the amount of interest earned each year increases. This is because the interest you earn is added to your principal, and in the next period, you earn interest on both your original money and the accumulated interest. Over a long period, this compounding effect can dramatically increase your savings.
All right, that is fantastic. So now let's look at the opposite effect. So let's look at credit debt. Now, can you show me an example if you only make the minimum payments of credit cards instead of trying to pay them off every month?
When you only make minimum payments on a credit card, you pay significantly more in interest and stay in debt for much longer. The reason for this is that minimum payments are designed to cover the interest first, with only a small amount going toward the principal, the original amount you borrowed. Example, paying the minimum versus paying in full. Let's illustrate the difference with a real-world scenario. Initial balance, $2,000. Annual percentage rate, APR, 22%. This is a common interest rate for credit cards. Minimum payment. Let's assume the minimum payment is 2% of the balance plus the interest for the month. Scenario 1. Paying the minimum. Payment 1. Your interest for the first month will be about $36.25, calculated daily. The minimum payment would be $40, 2% of $2,000. So, 36.25 goes TO interest, and only asterisk 3.75 asterisk goes to the principal. Your new balance is $1,996.25. Long-term effect. At this rate, it could take you over 10 years to pay off the $2,000 balance, and you would end UP paying more than asterisk $2,500 in interest asterisk on top of the original $2,000, bringing your total cost to over $4,500. Scenario 2. Paying the full balance. Payment 1. You pay the full $2,000 balance by the due date. Long-term effect. You pay $0 in interest. Your credit card balance is zero, and you can continue to use the card without accumulating debt. By only making minimum payments, you enter a cycle of high-interest debt that can be very difficult to escape. The small amount of principal you pay is often quickly offset by new purchases, causing the debt to linger for years and costing you a significant amount of money in the long run.
Very, very good. And so if you notice in there, if you pay the interest, only pay the minimum interest, you ended up paying basically twice as much than if you were to just pay it off in full. So if you have what costs $2,000? Cars don't cost $2,000. I say home improvement. You have $2,000. Maybe you buy all new appliances. You buy 4 new appliances, $500 each. Well, if you just pay the minimum payments over time, you don't have $2,000, but you can pay, what were they suggesting here, $40 a month? No. Yeah, $40. So if you only paid $40 a month over a period of time, then those appliances now cost twice as much. And it says it take over 10 years to pay it off. So, and so if those appliances break down and you don't have the money to cover that in 10 years, in those 10 years, well, then now you have 2 sources of debt for appliances that you weren't planning to expect. And so hopefully your emergency fund or your savings can pay for things like appliances that breaking down, or just maybe you have a savings fund for home improvement, which would be even a better plan, because then you can have interest coming in from that savings plan and pay even less from your own income, and you have a little bit from, I guess technically interest is income, but from your job income, you're paying less from your job income, and maybe you're only paying $1,800 for appliances, and you're able to use that extra $200 to go on a couple of nice restaurants to do something else. So savings can make a difference. And so my next question is, what are some often overlooked money saving tips?
Many people focus on major saving strategies like cutting big expenses or earning more. While those are effective, some of the most powerful and often overlooked money-saving tips are found in the details of our daily lives. They require a shift in mindset and a bit of planning. 1. The sinking fund for irregular expenses. Most people budget for monthly bills, but they forget about expenses that occur less frequently, like car insurance that's paid every 6 months, holiday gifts, or car maintenance. This leads to a scramble for cash and potential credit card debt. The tip: create separate sinking funds, a separate savings account, or a budget line item for these irregular expenses. For example, if your annual car insurance is $1,200, put $100 aside each month. When the bill comes, the money is already there, preventing a financial shock. 2. Auditing your subscriptions. In the age of digital services, it's easy to accumulate subscriptions without realizing how much they cost. The tip: once every 3 to 6 months, go through your bank and credit card statements and list every recurring subscription, from streaming services and apps to gym memberships and magazine subscriptions. Cancel any that you don't use regularly or that provide little value. A few dollars here and there can quickly add up to significant savings. 3. Reducing food waste at home. Food waste is a major source of financial loss for many households. The tip: plan your meals for the week before you go grocery shopping. Only buy what you need for those meals. When you get home, properly store your food to keep it fresh for longer. Use leftovers for lunch the next day, and get creative with ingredients that are about to expire, turning them into soups or smoothies instead of throwing them away. This can save you hundreds of dollars a year. 4. Maximizing employee benefits. Many people are unaware of or underutilize the benefits their employer offers. The tip: review your company's benefits package. You may be missing out on a 401k match, which is essentially free money, flexible spending accounts, FSAs, or health savings accounts, HSAs, that can save you on taxes or even discounts on various products and services. 5. Embracing DIY, do it yourself. Paying for services can be convenient, but a little bit of effort and learning can save you a lot of money. The tip: for simple tasks around the house, like changing an air filter, fixing a leaky faucet, or even painting a room, use online resources like YouTube tutorials. The money you save on labor can be substantial. Of course, know your limits and don't attempt complex or dangerous tasks like electrical or plumbing work unless you're qualified. 6. The wait-and-see rule. Impulse purchases are a budget killer. The tip: when you're tempted to buy a non-essential item, implement a 24-hour or 48-hour wait-and-see rule. Put the item on a list or in your online cart and revisit it after the waiting period. More often than not, the urge to buy will have passed, and you'll realize you didn't need the item after all.
Yeah, that last one is my favorite. I wait 24 hours before you make a big expense. And so I heard if you tell that to a car salesman, it'll just drive them nuts because they know that you may not come back the next day, and perhaps they may not be working the next day, and so they won't be able to collect their profit from selling you a car. But at the same time, it really is, as much as you may want to care for the person who's trying to make a living, you do need to have control over your own expenses. And so you could probably even ask the guy if he's going to be there tomorrow. And if he's not, maybe you can wait till next week when he's after his weekend or whenever he's done working. So we're going to be back at work again. So there's a lot of good things there. I know a lot of people try to cut back on food. People can buy prepackaged food. So I probably asked for overlooked money-saving tips. You could probably ask AI for the basic money-saving tips, such as making your own meals instead of prepackaged meals. Not only they're usually healthier, but they're also cheaper to buy. If you had a rice and beans budget for a meal plan, you probably get tired of the food pretty quickly, but the more you add that in, the further your money goes. So I'm about time here of what I wanted to do. I just want to, I'll leave with there's plenty of scriptural references about what would be, about being good stewards, about being good with money. My favorite was Genesis 1:28 again, that God blessed Adam and Eve and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion and care for the fish, the sea, the birds of the air, the heavens, birds in the heavens and over everything that moves on the earth. And so my hope to you is that you do find the life you want to live, where you find yourself being a good neighbor, where you're not only caring for yourself, but you're caring for those around you. Where you're in a community where you are valued, the job you have is valued, the things you want to spend money on are valued, and you feel spiritually nourished and fulfilled in the end. So my best wishes to you, and go be good stewards.